Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to the 4-3 show. Sadly, guys, this is our second to last show for this semester. We will hopefully be back on Blaze Radio next semester, but let's get started. Today has been a crazy day for Major League Baseball contract signings, but we've had a hectic couple days in college football. What is happening with the coaching carousel? Let's just go over the moves real quick. Yesterday, Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma to go to USC. And now, today, Brian Kelly takes a 10-year contract worth over $100 million to become the coach at LSU. Do we know the contract terms yet on
Looking like a
on
John
Lincoln?
Gruden kind of contract. I'm not sure for Lincoln. I don't think it's been publicly made
Yeah.
known.
The Lincoln Riley contract?
Yeah.
No, it is. They didn't get the years, but it's $110 million. They're paying out.
USC's got the money now. so.
Yeah, they're buying out his contract at Oklahoma.
Yeah, makes sense.
They're buying out his property in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
including the new house that they were just finished building.
Yeah.
And they're also buying him a house in like Malibu.
Dude, USC
Okay.
boosters hit different.
And-
Hit different.
And they are also getting him his own private jet.
Okay, I saw that tweet. Are we sure that that is credible and true?
I mean, I don't see why
Hey,
it wouldn't
honestly,
be true.
like I wouldn't
No one-
be surprised.
No one like tweeted it saying like refuting it, so I'd
Okay,
just
that's fair.
have to
That's
assume
fair.
that.
And people question why the man would want to go there. Enough said.
All right. I did not introduce ourselves, but as usual, I'm your host, Ryan Blake. I got Parker. I got Dom here. Once again, Pat is MIA. I feel like he's just trying to tell us he's quitting. I don't know what's going on with him. But let's get into it. Parker, you're the biggest USC fan here. Go ahead and talk about Lincoln Riley.
So, I mean, his track record's great. He came into that program, went 55-10, produced 2 Heismans, won the Big 12 multiple times. I mean, a lot of success came out of it. You know, there was no college football championship, but, you know, there's so many really good teams with the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the Georgias, and the Ohio States of the world. So I understand why that didn't happen. So you can't really hold that against him too much. He accomplished a heck of a lot at Oklahoma. So I think that it's a hire that kind of shocked me a little bit because I don't think it was one of those that was super high on my radar. I was looking at some other names of guys that might be able to take over that job, but I do think that that's a good one. It came out of nowhere. There was the question asked about LSU, and of course, like a true pro, Lincoln Riley said he's not going to be the next head coach at LSU. I'm sure he was smirking on the inside, trying to keep a good poker face because he knew that he was going to go to USC.
Well,
so.
actually, it actually was reported today that his interest in USC didn't come until Saturday night, and that the deal got done quickly.
Well,
Sunday morning.
I mean, I'm not going to say that's not necessarily true, but I'm sure, you know, he had, I'd have to imagine he had a pretty good idea. And, you know, maybe what was meant by that is just he was really sold or maybe it just really clicked in his mind. But at that point, when that question was asked, I'm sure he knew what he was going to do. I mean, you don't just do a 180 out of nowhere and be like, all right, I'm going to go here after, you know, not giving it much consideration. So whatever it is, I think it is a good move, though, for USC. They need to get a good guy. And they did. And I think that the big issue with them hasn't been recruiting, which is going to help drastically with that move. I think it's just been the X's and O's, the coaching staff. Under Helton, those guys couldn't get it done. And it's just been such a coaching carousel over there. And so many guys have been in and out, so many failures of head coaching positions and just other assistant coaches. So I think a clean sweep is exactly what the program needs. If any of those descriptions for the private jet and the house and all that are true, it just shows how badly the boosters wanted to make this happen because they know what they're going to get with a guy like Lincoln Riley. I think that it is a good move. And it's just crazy when you see one of these top coaches at these top schools go somewhere else. All these recruits decommitting. Suddenly guys are thinking of transferring. We saw Rattlers in the portal. That has nothing to do with this. That was going to happen regardless once his job was taken from him. But we're just seeing all this collateral damage and the dominoes are falling in place. And it's just really crazy to see because guys like Malachi Nelson, who's the number 2 prospect behind only Arch Manning in the 2023 class, he decommitted. All of a sudden, crystal ball predictions are heavily favoring USC for his next destination. We're seeing other guys. Damani Brown, he decommitted from USC only a couple weeks ago, and all of a sudden, I'm not going to say he does come back or recommits, but there's definitely a stronger chance of that. So I think in the recruiting landscape, we're going to see a lot happen because USC's always been up there, no matter how bad they've been. But this is going to be a little bit different because while they've always been in the top 10, now all of a sudden, give it a year or two, and that's also the thing for him being their coach. Give it a year or two. This isn't going to be instant success, right? It's going to take time, but we're going to see the recruiting be up in the top 5 consistently every year under his tenure.
Dom, over to you.
It's a very interesting move because there's obviously dynamics at Oklahoma. They're leaving the Big 12 to go to the SEC. Guys, what schools did Oklahoma lose to in the playoffs?
They always lost those SEC schools.
SEC
Alabama.
schools?
They lost to Georgia, they lost to Alabama, and they lost to LSU. So,
Interesting.
I'm sure that Lincoln Riley, slept hard a lot of nights saying, do I really want to go to the SEC?
He didn't.
No.
He was not a fan of that.
He didn't want to, and that's the reason.
I think that he's running away from the SEC. And at the end of the day, any coach will tell you their goal is to get to the NFL. And a lot of the really successful college coaches have already gone to the NFL and it didn't work. Nick Saban, head coach of the Browns, didn't work. These guys, they go to the NFL, they try it out, they go back to college. Pete Carroll, where did he coach before USC? He was in the NFL. So some of these coaches that haven't been in the NFL, they're trying to take steps that they think can get them to the NFL. And if Lincoln Riley didn't change things on the defensive end at Oklahoma, they were probably going to get beat pretty badly. Not badly, but it wasn't going to go as well for them as it had in the Big 12. In the SEC, I mean, example number one, there's 14 teams in the SEC right now. 13 of them finished with 6 wins this year. So 13 of their teams are going to bowl games. That's crazy. Like, it's so competitive. It's so hard to win week in and week out. And there just isn't that same competition in the Big 12. So I'm not saying that's part of the reason why Lincoln Riley had success. He had success because he's a really good head football coach. There's a reason that he got 2 Heisman winners. Like Baker Mayfield, he was good before Lincoln Riley took over as head coach, but he was elite. He was the best when he was head coach. Kyler Murray didn't really play much before his senior year, in which he took over after Baker Mayfield, and he was elite. He was the best. He was the number 1 overall pick. So was Baker. Jalen Hurts lost his job at Alabama. He lost it. He goes to Oklahoma. He's the runner-up for Heisman. He's now a starting quarterback in the NFL of a pretty solid offense. So Lincoln Riley, he's going to be a good coach at USC. It just looks bad the way that he handled things, not telling any of the players, not telling any of the staff, not telling the university, just kind of leaving them out to dry. Now, they're still a really talented team. He's also taking the entire coaching staff with him. So Oklahoma, they're a really good program. They'll be fine. They'll still be really good, even when they go to the SEC. But it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here because Bob Stoops, he pushed hard for Lincoln Riley to be the next head coach, and he was absolutely right about him. But he's gone now. So Oklahoma is going to be an interesting program to watch over the next couple of weeks to see where they go for head coach.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Lincoln Riley's 38. He is the youth that I think USC needs. They're going to be able to be top-tier recruiting because the track record for Lincoln Riley says it all. Players are committing to Oklahoma because of him. And in about 24 hours, they lost 7 top 4 and 5-star recruits because Lincoln Riley left. His track record says all. He's going to be able to get wins. He's going to be able to get recruiting, and he's going to bring in a lot of money for that program. That's why they're so comfortable with doing all that you said, Dom, with the private jet, the house, the pay, all of that. They're willing to do that because they know he's going to put butts in seats, and he's going to produce a winning team and a winning program. So it makes sense. I think it's a home run hire for USC. They went out and got the big name that they needed. The one thing that sucks, I had my theory that made my dad mad that Pete Carroll was going to get fired by the Seahawks and go back to USC. And it got him mad every single time. And then yesterday I called him and I tell him, Lincoln Riley's now the head coach. He's like, don't mess around. Are you serious? I was like, yeah. He's going to USC. And he is the coach that I think USC needs. Like I said, he brings in youth. He's got the track record. What he did at Oklahoma, especially after Stoops, who was a great coach, retired. So the track record is there. I think it's a great fit. And I think USC is going to get back to where they once were, if not in the next couple of years. So I think it worked out really well for them. But my next question is, where does Oklahoma go now for a coach?
I saw a potential candidate is Brent Venables, defensive coordinator at Clemson. Clemson's paid Venables a lot of money to stay away from the program, and I was talking to my girlfriend, who is a Oklahoma fan, and she informed me that Venables is a former coach at Oklahoma, so he's already got the experience of coaching at Oklahoma. So when discussing with my girlfriend Brooklyn, I thought that was a pretty good candidate, and he could turn around the defense at Oklahoma. And listen, Oklahoma is one of the premier programs in the country. They can pay for someone like Venables, and they'll still be able to recruit. I think your sentiment of these recruits are only coming here because of Riley is wrong. They went there because Riley's there, but they were still bringing in 5 stars before Lincoln Riley was there. So I don't agree with that sentiment, but the guys who are leaving now, those are guys who they wanted to go play for Riley. So I think Venables is a strong candidate that they're going to go after, especially after a down year at Clemson. He might be looking to get out.
Yeah, and as far as coaching goes, one thing that's interesting is we see with these coaches, or I mean, kind of to make a comparison, it's kind of similar to players who opt out of playing in these bowl games due to the fear of injury before going into the draft. We've seen this with other coaches before, and his replacement is going to be Bob Stoops. Actually, he's going to serve as an interim head coach for their bowl game, which I think is really interesting. That's a cool little narrative and a little storyline to follow. And as for going forward, I saw like some Vegas odds for who could be the next coach. I mean, Cristobal comes to mind. Fickle at Cincinnati. Personally, he stuck out because I don't think he will, because he's building something good over there in Cincy. While Oklahoma's absolutely a much better job, and you can make the argument that this is the opportunity to maybe take that. I'm not a believer that that would be the case, but there's a ton of guys, though. Pretty much everyone that USC was maybe considering, or who I thought they were considering, are guys that could potentially look to make that move, because that is definitely one of those premier programs like Dom mentioned. And I think that there's so many guys that want a chance to jump on that when they get the opportunity to. So the sweepstakes are going to be really nice. I know they're not going to be getting private jets and all that stuff like LA can provide, but I think that they are going to get another great head coach. And kind of similar to the process of USC, taking some time under Riley to get better, it's going to be the same thing from them with whoever they bring in. So I am really curious, though, with the move to the SEC, where do they fall in that conference with Lincoln Riley no longer being there and those recruits leaving? Because honestly, I don't know. I mean, there's so many good teams in the SEC. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are, but it's not going to be too easy for them, because, I mean, the transition was already going to be tough. I already thought they were going to struggle, probably lose an extra game or two a season next year. But without having your head coach and some of those big recruits, it's only going to make that transition more difficult. So I'm really curious to see how it all plays out.
The name that I've been seeing a lot is Cliff Kingsbury. And here's the thing. The whole thing with the press conference today and what he said, there were people in the sports bureau today on the press conference. We all know what he's doing. He's going to say these things like, it's not something I want to touch on right now. He's going to use it to get a massive extension from the Cardinals. He's not going to go.
Or if they don't want to do that, he'll take the job at Oklahoma if they pay him a lot.
Exactly. They're going to leverage the Cardinals. That's what his agent wants to do. That's what I think makes a lot of sense. So that's what I see there. But outside of that, Parker, I've heard a lot about Cristobal maybe going there. And then Venables makes a lot of sense. He's a former coach there. The one that piqued my interest a lot is Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, that's another one.
He started to get something going there at Ole Miss. Is he willing to throw that away to go to Oklahoma is the question.
I mean, I would definitely say of the guys we've mentioned so far, or at least of the the two I've mentioned, and you throwing him in there for a third, I would probably say that would make the most sense. Yeah.
Kiffin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Kiffin would be a pretty good fit there, especially with what he's done to get Ole Miss, they've been
Quite the journey
French top 10.
Mr. Kiffin has been on since USC.
Oh, it's been a wild ride for Lane Kiffin. But that's not the only coaching job that's now open. Notre Dame just lost the most winningest coach in program history as Brian Kelly heads to LSU. What do you guys think about this hire? Dom, let's go over to you.
I was shocked because Notre Dame stuck by Brian Kelly after they went 4-8 a couple years back,
Yeah,
and it was a glorious year, Parker. It was beautiful.
Dory Jackson absolutely murdered that team.
Right, as did most good college football players that year because they weren't good. And to be the winningest head coach at a program like that is it says a lot about how good of a head coach he is. And Notre Dame, they've been in the playoff, I think 2 of the last 3 years. They were last year and then my senior year of high school. So, yeah, 2 of the last 3 years. Good math, Tom. And Notre Dame, they were kind of in like a rebuilding year. They had 2 quarterbacks, Jack Cohen, Tyler Buchner, who was a stud. Got to see him play a couple times in San Diego. Really, really good. But they had a couple of like veteran guys who they were going to lose to the draft, but they were going to replenish them. Big recruiting class. It's Notre Dame. I was ready to pick them as one of my favorites to win the national championship next year. And I'm in the camp that Notre Dame's overrated every year just because they are. It's Notre Dame. Brian Kelly leaving is massive. I think that Notre Dame is going to be in a worse spot because Brian Kelly's leaving than Oklahoma is because not Urban Meyer.
Lincoln Riley.
He should leave too, by the way. Lincoln Riley's going to be gone.
They can put those to rest.
Urban Meyer to Fighting Irish?
No, Urban Meyer's going to take Billy Napier's going to take the job at Florida. But Urban Meyer should have taken the job back at Florida. So that way he would be distracted from his distractions outside of NFL games. And he would just coach 2 teams and it would be cool. Anyways, so I think Notre Dame is an interesting spot because Kelly's been their guy for a long time. Like, Oklahoma had already gone through the coaching search and found their guy. Now they're going to have to do it again, which isn't easy to do. But Notre Dame, they've got a really good defensive coordinator. I'm blanking on his name, but he was the defensive coordinator last year at Cincinnati for their elite defense.
Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman. He's really good.
Yeah.
He's probably going to be the interim head coach for their bowl game or for the college football playoff game if Notre Dame still gets in.
Yeah.
So I think Notre Dame's in a fascinating spot, but both these programs are top of the line programs, like probably top 5 programs in the country. I mean, you put them 2 up there. Alabama, probably have to put Georgia in there at this point. Maybe, I guess, USC or Texas. But these 2 programs, they're not going to struggle to find their candidates. The only reason it felt like USC was struggling was because they were waiting for Oklahoma's season to end.
Parker.
Yeah, well, as far as Notre Dame goes, it is tough. It's a difficult transition to go from a guy that's been there for 12 seasons. That's a really long time. I mean, he's been a foundation of that team. They've never, again, kind of like Oklahoma, they haven't had the success of finally getting over that hump of winning the championship, but it'd still be a respectable playoff team that, you had to watch out for depending on who you were and if you were facing them. So he built a good program over there. Notre Dame, again, like you mentioned, they're not going to have trouble finding a new guy. So it's not really a matter of finding or the trouble of finding a guy. It's just finding the right guy that can be as seamless a transition as possible for them. Brian Kelly's a guy where I had seen a rumor about, I don't know if it was a week ago or a couple of days ago. It doesn't really matter. Pretty much it was a rumor that, he was tied to LSU. And I was trying to think, I'm like, okay, I can actually kind of see that working out. I could see maybe that playing out. And then sure enough, get the notification today and bam, there it is. But once it did go through, it's kind of like, wow, I mean, it's weird picturing any other guy coaching them since for our lives, essentially, of, being knowledgeable on football and being able to retain any information, he's been there the whole time. So that's going to be a difficult thing, but there's so many good candidates, fortunately for them, that they're going to be able to pursue. But Notre Dame's such a weird team, one, because they don't play in a conference. They're not associated with one. They make their own schedule, but now they got this to deal with. So I don't know how this is going to affect them. It's not going to affect, from a recruiting perspective, the way it hit Oklahoma really hard. But still, I mean, there's guys that want to play for that program. So I think that while it's going to be a little bit of a transition, They're still going to be a good football team. How good they're going to be, I don't know, because I'm also one of those people that thinks they're very overrated every year. But I still think they're going to be a good ranked team. It's just a matter of finding that right fit.
Yeah, I think that this hire came as a shock to me. I did not think that Brian Kelly was going to leave Notre Dame, especially after 12 years there. I thought he was going to stay there, especially after he said, I believe a couple of days ago, how it would have to be like a $250 million check that his wife would have to see and all that to leave. And I know coaches say that, but this hire still caught me off guard. I did not expect it, but at the same time, is he ready to go to the SEC and take on Saban? Is he ready to go to the SEC and take on Kirby Smart? Time will tell. I think that this is the big name hire that LSU wanted because of what he's done at Notre Dame. He's been able to have a lot of success there. And I know that I saw on Twitter, Koki Riley, who is a Cronkite grad, talked to a 5-star recruit who's a quarterback for LSU, saying that I'm hiring Brian Kelly. He's going to bring us to national championships. Well, he's going to have to go through the gauntlet to get there. And this might be the test that Brian Kelly wants to prove that he's one of the best coaches in college football to put him up in that truly elite status. But I think it's going to be interesting to see what he does, especially with the money that they're paying him. So I think it's going to be really interesting. For replacements at Notre Dame, I think if Luke Fickell leaves Cincinnati, I think this is the spot. I can't tell you why. It's kind of like one of those gut feeling things that if he leaves, he'll end up at Notre Dame. But I can definitely see them going with Freeman, who's really done a great job in his first year. I believe the defense gave up just over 18 points per game this year, which is just outside the top 10 in the country. So defense has been really good. And then Matt Campbell's also another name from Iowa State that's being thrown around. They just locked him up to a big deal. I have no idea what it would be like for him to get him to leave and what that buyout would look like. But I think that there's so many dominoes to be moved around still. But big hire from both USC and LSU trying to get back to where they once were. And we go to Arizona State. I got to ask you guys.
Spencer.
No.
Well, that's not what he was going to ask.
Yeah.
But it is.
Edwards was told he is the head coach in 2022 by Ray Anderson following the U of A win.
It's a mistake.
Parker, what do you think? It's a mistake? Go right ahead. Please take it away.
I mean, look, I'm not on board with it. I think that it's promoting mediocrity. That's what mediocrity's been for ASU under Herm Edwards. It's a program where it looked like maybe he could take them to new heights, but that hasn't been the case. It always seems like there's so much hype around these ASU teams, and
every year
there's talent. They have a lot of talent, and that's why I think he should be gone, because he hasn't done anything with that talent. Coaches that inherit the program that he did should be able to do more with it. It's just the team is so inconsistent. The biggest indicators of bad coaching are turnovers and penalties, and this team has been so full of them. You just don't know what kind of team you're going to get every week, and that's not a way to build continuity. That's not a way to stack up with some of the better teams, not only in the nation, but just the Pac-12. I mean, they haven't even been able to do that. This has been a year where Utah's representing the South.
Yeah.
And it was such a winnable thing. It was such an easy thing to do, and they failed to do it. They're a team where Herm Edwards just not been the answer, and I couldn't tell you who the right one is, because we just talked about those huge blue blood schools that have all the opportunities in the world to bring in new guys. ASU's not up at that level. They're not able to do that. They don't have those same luxuries, but still, it's a school where you should be able to find somebody to replace him. And I just think that what they're doing is they're just accepting the fact that he's not going to make the program any better, and we're okay with it. And I think that at some point you got to be able to make a move, unless you want to see another 8-5 kind of season.
Right. I don't think there's anything wrong with going 8-5, but this is Arizona State University. I mean, there's not a whole lot of campuses like Tempe where you can go and the weather is good all year long.
Yeah.
You can go and you can have the time of your life as a college athlete. And to be in this circumstance and for the best season he's had in the regular season to be 8-4, and it feels like, I mean, you guys would agree with me, they're a bad 8-4 team. Like, if they're in any other conference, they're nowhere near 8-4.
Mm-hmm.
There's the mistakes they were able to get away with against Colorado Arizona, Washington. Like they're able to do that. But it is disappointing. And the whole recruiting scandal, no one really knows what the whole details are with that. And that was certainly a reason that people thought, like, hey, he could step down. I don't think Ray Anderson was going to fire him.
He won't fire him.
Because,
he won't.
one, Ray Anderson hired him, and he's his friend. That's why he was
his
hired.
friend.
Two, if Ray Anderson fires him, it looks like he's covering up the recruiting scandals and, like, trying to, like, get Herm out of here. But if Herm steps down and, you know, one, just retires because he's not young. He's old. And then two, also, like, takes the blame. The program that he was starting to build up again is still intact. So it's gone now. Tough spot. I don't think that he should have been brought back, but the program, it has been getting better. Year one, they were 500.
Yeah.
Year two, they went 7-5, knocked off number 5 team in the country, Oregon. Year three, they were 2-2, pandemic year, really hard to judge, but led the Pac-12 in point differential for anyone that cares about that. Beating a team by 63 goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they also like beat Oregon State by 20 on the road. Yeah. But and then year four, they're 8-4. So like it's been getting better, but now you look at it, you know, Utah, they had a young team this year. They're going to be better next year. Oregon's going to keep recruiting like mad. Utah, like I just mentioned, UCLA. UCLA. I was gonna finish it off with USC. That's what I was building it up, Parker.
Sorry, with all the news, you know, it's just a hot topic.
His excitement is there.
But UCLA, I mean, they went 8-4 too. They can recruit in Southern California more easily than ASU can. And then of course USC bringing in Lincoln Riley. So. And you look at it, this was ASU's shot. And like Parker, you mentioned like the South was wide open. It was so wide open. ASU was 2-0. They were in Utah against the other 2-0 team, and they were up 14 at halftime.
I was at that game.
I know. Yeah, sucks for you. Gosh. All you had to do was hold on to a 14-point lead against a not very good quarterback.
Kim Rising's not that good.
And you win the South because at that point Utah's 2-1, and they're 3-3 on the year at this point. By the way, too, if they lose this game, they're not going to come back from that. Like they aren't going to be the same team. Even if they do win, all of a sudden now they have 2 conference losses. ASU finished the year with 3 conference losses. They win that game, they have 2. They win the South, and we're looking at a whole different story because you probably also don't come out and lose. You just get absolutely embarrassed by Washington State. That is a full assumption. That one was a full assumption. But if ASU beats Utah, they're going to win the Pac-12 South. And we're looking forward to an ASU-Oregon Pac-12 championship game in Las Vegas this weekend.
Exactly.
I mean, I know I'd probably go to that game.
Oh, I'd be there.
You'd probably cover it. So
I would try my hardest.
Right. So, I mean, the opportunities were there for Arizona State. And I think the Pac-12 is only going to get better, not just by Lincoln Riley coming, but I think Lincoln Riley is also going to elevate the level of the Pac-12 because more recruits are going to want to stay on the West Coast and compete against their buddies instead of going to the Big 12 to schools like Oklahoma, Texas to play for Lincoln Riley.
I agree with you.
And the SEC too. The SEC is always going to attract the West Coast athletes just because it's the best. It's going to be the best. So really fascinating stuff in college football landscape, and we haven't even talked about playoff scenarios.
And I'm going to talk about ASU real quick. I've said it before. This was the year that they win the Pac-12 South and have their chance to get to the Rose Bowl. Look at the team that they had. A defense that's one of the best in the Pac-12. It started off looking like one of the best in the country, filled with star-studded seniors like Jason Lucas, Tyler Johnson, Darian Butler, and Jack Jones. Have one of the best rushing attacks in the country, and then had a quarterback that had gotten better in each of his years, had looked good, especially after a very promising freshman campaign in his first full season. And now, look at where they're at. They choked against Utah in a game that they should have won. And then Washington State. That wasn't even a game. That's how embarrassing it was.
Pain.
And each year, it's those season-defining losses that kill them and kill any hype. It's each year. They set up ASU to be disappointed. And the reason why Herm Edwards is coming back is because it's his first season with 8 regular season wins And I think a huge reason is the investigation. What coach is going to want to come to ASU, knowing with the pending results of the investigation?
They're going to have to hire within, which leads that
Which is
either
a horrible
Antonio
idea.
Pierce or Zach Hill's going to be the next head coach.
You cannot use Antonio Pierce. He has been called the mastermind of this whole recruiting investigation.
Right.
You cannot give Antonio Pierce the reins, and I don't think you can give Zach Hill the reins either. His play calling has been questionable throughout this season. So I think they were pressured to keep Herm Edwards, especially with the results of the investigation. Who knows what happens afterwards, but this program should be playing in the Pac-12 championship this upcoming weekend. And yet, those season-dividing losses killed them. So that's really what it comes down to. And then it's just going to hurt this offseason. The first big name entered the transfer portal today. Chip Trainum's gone. He's entered the transfer portal, which shocks me.
Whatever.
Because he was supposed to be the lead back.
Running backs.
Of course you said that.
ASU's going to recruit running backs. There's so many good running backs here.
And they still got Daniel Ngata, who I believe has been underutilized throughout his entire time at ASU.
And they have like a 4-star freshman running back recruit who could leave. But
yeah. So there's a lot that's going to happen with ASU. But Dom, you segued into it quickly. Before championship weekend, let's put our predictions in for the final 4 teams to make the playoff.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with the easy one. We're going to take Georgia here.
Okay.
Win or lose, I think they should be in the playoff.
100% their lock.
No other team is in that scenario, though. Everyone else is playing for their life. Michigan, they will beat Iowa. I think they do beat Iowa. It would be very classic of Michigan. The one year they get over the hill and beat a good Ohio State team.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
They lose in the Big Ten championship game and don't make the playoff. I'm not doing anything to you, Brian. That thought should already be in your head. It should be in that.
It's been implanted in my head ever since Wisconsin lost and they knew they were facing Iowa.
Well, I mean, Wisconsin's significantly better than Iowa. So I think Michigan gets a break. Did you just shrug at that statement, Ryan?
That Wisconsin offense is bad. Their defense is exceptional.
Well, no, but their offense had been playing really well.
Big Ten
it didn't
football.
play well against Minnesota.
But I think it's going to be – I think Michigan, for the first time since before my B'nai Mitzvah, when I was 13, they had won 2 years prior to that. Actually, 3 years. Oh, my gosh, I'm old. They finally beat Iowa State. Hassan Haskins is that guy. 5 rushing touchdowns. Gosh, I was filming the ASU U of A game, and before the game, I'm following the Michigan game on my phone. I'm going crazy. Oh, it was beautiful. Finally, Jimmy gets the job done. 1 win, and they're in. Do not choke it this time, please. Please, I'm begging you, Jim Harbaugh.
And I think Georgia beats Alabama.
I agree.
So Alabama, God forbid, if 2-loss Alabama makes the playoff.
There'll be riots.
They won't.
I do not think
But I wouldn't if that happens.
It would take so many other things, and even then, I don't think it'd be enough to get them in.
I do think Cincinnati beats Houston, as much as I'm rooting against them because I want San Diego State to make a New Year's Six Bowl because that would be really cool for the Aztecs. I do think Cincinnati wins, and they do get in as a 13-0 American Conference champion with win over Notre Dame. Notre Dame, I think, is the 3rd best team in the country, but I don't see them getting in. They don't have a good win, and they don't have a conference championship game to play. And I think Oklahoma State beats Baylor, and I think they get in.
Yeah, I gotta just say, Notre Dame deserves to not get in just for the reason that they're so stubborn with their TV deals. So I agree with that. I think that the way it plays out is kind of like what you mentioned. The 4 teams are in this order: Georgia, Michigan, Cincy had probably put at 3, and then Alabama's probably at 4. Not going to matter though wherever they decide to put them tomorrow, because assuming, like I said, they lose to Georgia, they should be gone. They should be far removed from the playoff talk. So I think that with that being said, Georgia is the one. They've been clearly the best team in what's been a crazy year. They've been the one team where there's absolutely no doubt in your mind that they're just different from the rest of the teams in the group.
Yeah.
They can definitely lose. They're not, invincible. But as of right now, they look as close to it as possible. So they're the one. I think Michigan does beat Iowa. assuming they don't goof it up, they do win that game. They win the conference championship.
Yep.
They're the 2 right there behind them. A really good 2 right there. I think that if Cincy goes to win, which I think they will, the tricky part with them is I feel like they have to look pretty convincing. They're the only team in this pack where they have to look really good in their win. Any other team, you just have to win and you're good. But there's a little bit of skepticism with how good they are, being that they don't play high-level competition week in, week out. Really, that big win against Notre Dame's all there really is. So I do think that should they win convincingly, and I'm talking like by definition 2 scores or more, they will get the 3. And then Oklahoma State, who beats Baylor, I think part of my thought process is they kind of have to squeak by Baylor too. Like, that has to be a pretty close game because if they look dominant, they probably get the nod over an undefeated Cincy team. They probably do. Big 12 champion. Yeah, I mean, I think they probably do. It depends. I mean, the committee has viewed Cincy pretty highly. They've been in the 4 for the last week, and they will be again this week. But I think that if Oklahoma State looks really good against a really good Baylor team, that can create some issues. Fortunately, with my prediction, I don't think that's the case. I think Cincy gets the 3 and Oklahoma State does win and they get the 4.
Yeah. I agree with you guys' rankings. I do have Georgia at 1. I think Alabama loses to them, so they fall out. So Michigan at 2, Cincy at 3, and then Oklahoma State at 4. My question is, if Oklahoma State loses and with Baylor winning, does Baylor have any chance?
No, Notre Dame would get in.
Okay.
Notre Dame has been so dominant ever since that Cincinnati loss that it would be a travesty if another team jumps over them. Like besides a one-loss conference champion.
Okay. Parker, do you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I probably can. Again, like I said, though, it'd be funny if they didn't.
It would be funny.
It would be, but I think they'd have to get it. I think what kills Baylor is that loss to TCU. That's what kills them.
Yeah,
as it should.
Can't have that.
So, yeah, you can't lose to a team like TCU. So
they lost to TCU in their first game without their head coach since like 2002.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what kills them. It's a much different story if they don't lose that game and both teams are 11-1 going into the conference championship. It's a lot different. But that loss to TCU does kill them. All right. That's going to conclude our college football talk. First time we've done that in a long time. Let's get into the NFL. We had an interesting week of games, gentlemen.
Hello, fellow showmates. I want you to think back to a year ago when I said that it was the Cam Newton era in New England, and it didn't work out with Cam. And as devastated as I was, I'm ready to close the door on the Cam Newton era. So without further ado, I'm ready to announce that it is the Mac Jones era in New England, baby. Let's effing go. I'm so glad that another Patriots dynasty is starting, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. P.S. Ryan, the Chiefs are losing out, and the Broncos are winning the division. Congrats, Parker. Signed, Patrick Fortuna.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's just not going to happen. So that's just not going to happen. Sorry.
I'm glad that because I hadn't read that beforehand. I'm glad that I didn't say the F word on air.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
This is on the FCC or anything.
I am proud of you.
I do know that Gannon Hanvold and some of the other Blaze directors are in this building. So if they would have heard me say that, we could have been punished. So
yes. So I'm proud of you for keeping it calm. I'm proud of you for that. But yeah, make it a little bit of a reach.
It says you're delusional if you think the Chiefs are winning another game.
Man, Patriots fans are as delusional as they come.
Well,
here's the list of delusional fans
delusions have come to breach.
Here's the list of most delusional fan bases in football.
Chiefs number 1.
No, shut up.
Cowboys
number 1.
Okay, yes, you're right.
Cowboys number 1. Patriots number 2. Not about their own team, just basically Pat Fortuna about the Chiefs. And then the rest of the teams in whatever order. That's just how I see it.
Chargers are pretty high up there. They forget that they're the Chargers.
Yeah, and I should say Rams.
I feel like I'm pretty
I'm kidding.
I'm
kidding. But you mentioned what Pat had to say. Games that surprised you. Game of the week for you guys. Give it to me. I want to hear it.
So, I mean, the Bucs went on the road and they covered for the first time.
I don't want to talk about it. The ultimate choke by the Colts.
Yeah,
they should not have lost.
They turned the ball over 5 times. brutal. They moved the ball like mad on that Buccaneers defense.
They did.
Not very good. They're very banged up. I mean, we got to say how it is. So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how the Colts rebound from that because they basically wasted a prime opportunity to really get back in the division. Because if they won that game, they would have been 7-5, and they're looking at the Titans, and now all of a sudden they're a game and a half back, I believe. So, or no, they're just a game back. If they would have won that game, so missed opportunity there. And the Buccaneers needed to have a good game on the road. They did. Credit to them for forcing the turnovers and moving the ball, and they had to. Lombardi Lenny with 4 touchdowns, 100 rushing yards. What's that?
Why did the Colts have 0 rushing attempts in the third quarter? Why did they just abandon the run?
Well, I mean, they were moving the ball. The problem was that they had the punt. The problem was Zach Pascal fumbled. Naeem Hines fumbled the punt return in the third quarter, so that's part of the reason why they didn't have the ball much in the third.
Okay,
so it wasn't that Jonathan Taylor had a bad game. I mean, the Buccaneers front seven's as good as they come.
Yes.
So it's tough to run against. They went in with a game plan and they pretty much executed it. Carson Wentz made a bad throw that led to an interception. I think he also threw another one. And then Zach Pascal had a fumble, Naeem Hines had a fumble, and I forget what their other turnover was. So it was the Carson Wentz interception at the very end of the game on the Hail Mary. So
did they muff a punt too?
Yeah, Naeem Hines.
Yes, you just mentioned that.
We know. So you said it.
I can't say it. I would expect you to give me some support.
Well, that doesn't make for good radio. No one listens to the show. Here when you call yourself an idiot, just you're dumb for me to say, hey Ryan, you're not dumb.
No, that's Pat's job. I expected from you to actually say something nice. That's Pat's job to be the jerk.
Well, Pat's not here, so someone else has to step up in his spot.
No, I'd rather be Parker.
Why?
Well, I'd rather be Parker than you.
Anyways, Colts-Bucks was a fantastic game.
Surprise game for me was the Dolphins-Panthers. Cam Newton was bad. He was 5 for 21.
Bad game plan, too.
That is just absolutely brutal. Anytime you throw for less than 25%, you're not winning that game. I don't care how good your defense is. And the defense, speaking of which, didn't play very well. It's back-to-back weeks where they've definitely let up more points than we would have expected. And they did it against a Dolphins team where you're shocked. I mean, the same thing with last week. It was the football team. So how you allow Tua to play well and to look good, I don't know. I mean, he hasn't done that too much this year, so that's not very good. So this is a team where the offense wasn't able to get it done because last week, at least when the defense was not looking too good, the offense kind of made up for it. They made it a close game. They had that drive where Cam Newton maybe could have led them down the field and score a touchdown. They didn't, of course, but they had a chance. In this game, it was the complete opposite. They were blown out. Defense struggled heavily, and the offense couldn't get the ball down the field. And now all of a sudden, Christian McCaffrey's out for the year. The injury bug just loves to bite away at that poor guy. And now all of a sudden, the Panthers are 5-7. They were a team where when they signed Cam, I thought, okay, maybe they can make some noise in the NFC South. It's a good team, and that's a very winnable, or not winnable division, but a very winnable division in the sense that you get second in the wild card spot. Of course, there's the Bucs at 1, but they could surpass the Saints for sure.
Yeah.
Not the case, though. They haven't looked too good. The last 2 weeks have been brutal losses against very winnable teams, and those are the kind of games that you can't afford to lose. I don't know what the rest of their schedule looks like, but I have to assume it's only going to get harder. And when it does get harder, you look back at those games like, wow, we really should have had that.
My surprise game of the week, Broncos. Justin Herbert has been inconsistent throughout this year. He's had some good performances, but he's also had some pretty bad performances. And I know it's against a very good Denver defense, but still, it's still a little bit worrisome to see his inconsistency. But Broncos look good.
For the life of me, I can't get a read on this team.
They looked really good. And you know what? I'm kind of glad they won because, one, it keeps the Chargers off the Chiefs' back, but it also hypes up next week's Sunday night game. So it's going to be a great game next week, but that was a great game by the Broncos. Kind of gives me the feeling of they beat the Cowboys and then
rolled over and died against the Eagles.
Yeah, rolled over and died, as you just said, Parker. And now they beat the Chargers. What happens against the Chiefs? So it's going to be interesting. Also, to any gamblers out there, from the ex-gambler himself, remember this, folks. Andy Reid does not lose after the bye week. He is a post-bye week menace. He does not lose. So that's all I'll put out there. But no, the Broncos look really good. That defense,
They're flying.
it's really good.
Javonte got 20 carries. Good job, Pat Shurmur.
Okay, remember,
Mean runner.
Melvin Gordon got hurt.
I don't care.
That has an impact, though, is what I'm saying.
it does.
That's why he got that many carries.
But like, he saw what he could do.
Javonte being as good as he is really the because again, like we said it like almost every week. Don't like the pick still, but at least
talent's there.
Least the fact that he's so good,
Yeah.
that it makes it okay at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because like,
hey, at least he had drafted in the first round.
Like he's able to practically did, but he's able to break tackles. He's able to do stuff where because running backs and their success heavily weighs on outside forces like the offensive line, maybe even the quarterback, how good they are, because that frees up their ability to run the ball. And he doesn't particularly have those two things. So he is really good. Still don't like the pick, but he is kind of a monster, though. I mean, he's not fun to tackle. Definitely one of those guys. If you're picking NFL running backs, it's one of the top 5 you don't want to tackle.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, to your point, if you think about all the like really, really good running backs in the NFL with Christian McCaffrey, he's not even like a running back. He's hurt. Almost all of them were second-round draft picks. Derrick Henry, second round. Dalvin Cook, second round.
Yes, I understand
Kamara, third round. Like these guys, they get drafted not in the first round. And there's really Jonathan Taylor. That was the one that was.
And you mentioned McCaffrey and then Saquon, first round, injured all the time too. So
don't use their first round pick. Ryan, do you know from experience about drafting a running back in the first round?
Shut up. Just shut up.
It's all right. Todd Gurley was good too.
Hey, Darrell Williams is better, okay?
Better, please. Thank you, Todd.
All right. We're have to go speed round here. We got 10 minutes to make our picks.
Yeah.
We're just gonna have to
You guys are
throw
just gonna have
something at the
to
wall.
text me your picks because I won't be able to get them down on time.
All right. We'll have to throw it at the wall for Pat, I guess. Would you guys agree with that?
Sure.
All right. First game of the week. Thursday night, Cowboys Saints.
I'll take the Cowboys. Saints suck. They're starting Taysom Hill.
Yeah, Cowboys. Yeah, I saw that. Cowboys.
Well, hold off. They're without their head coach. Dan Quinn's going to be their interim. I'm going with the Saints.
Hey, he's a guy that's getting some looks as a head.
Actually, wait.
Again,
Hold on. I have one caveat here. If Kamara plays, give me the Saints. If not, give me the Cowboys.
Sounds good.
That team is not the same without Kamara. You know that.
Well, yeah, but like again, running backs.
That means they're a flawed offense, is what that means.
I'm not saying that they are a flawed offense. I'm just saying it's a fact. Next game, Colts Texans.
Colts.
I'm going to take Colts. We know Pat's going to take the Texans. Who do you think Pat's taking?
Probably take the Cowboys because no one likes the Saints. No one likes the Cowboys though, but the Saints are lame.
Okay, we'll give that to him. Next up, Vikings Lions.
I'll take the Vikings. It's gonna be a close game though because it's the Lions and it's also the Vikings and it's a divisional game.
Yeah, it's the Vikings. Knowing the Lions, they'll lose on a heartbreaking field goal.
Divisional unders are 6-2.
Shut up, Dom.
They are.
Shut up, Dom.
I'm informing the listeners, Ryan.
Vikings it is.
All right, I'm going to go with the Vikings as well. Pat's taking the Lions.
Yes, for sure.
All right, next game up, we have Giants, Dolphins.
Tough game. Both teams coming off big wins, but the Dolphins have won 4 straight. Tua's playing a lot better. The defense is really starting to ball. So is the Giants' defense. It's going to be a low-scoring game, but I'll take the Dolphins.
Yeah, should be a defensive battle for sure. These are 2 respectable defenses. I think that the Dolphins get it done. If Tua has a similar kind of performance, he did it against a good defense last week, they should be able to win.
I'm going to take the Dolphins as well here. This team is starting to catch a little bit of fire. They're trying to make that run for a wild card spot in the AFC. Next up, Buccaneers, Falcons.
I'll take the Bucs. We'll see if they can cover the spread on the road again.
Yeah, it could be a close game for sure, but I do think Tampa wins.
I'm going to take Buccaneers as well. They're on the road, but it's the Falcons. They are a much different team when they got Patterson, but still, it's the Falcons. Who do we have Pat taking?
Oh, the Bucs.
Yeah.
Dude, he takes Tom Brady every week.
Oh, I'm stupid.
We know.
Next up, let's go back. Who does Pat take? Giants, Dolphins. He hates both teams.
Oh, that is true. I mean, I can't remember the last time he picked a divisional opponent, though, so I think he would go to the Giants.
Yeah.
That's a tough one for him.
As much as it would disgust him to take Eli Manning's former team.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, Eagles-Jets. I'm going to say Pat takes Eagles.
He will.
Yeah.
Well, once again, same spot.
Yeah.
Divisional opponent versus one of the two teams to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'll take the Eagles. They kind of got away from the run a little bit. Jalen Hurts under 50% completion percentage and 3 picks in this contest. They also were right there able to win the game if Jalen Rigger didn't drop not 1 but 2 passes.
Yeah.
So I think that
Robust.
the Eagles, they rebound. They get a win against the Jets.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I think the Eagles do get it done, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's close.
I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. I think they're going to bounce back, but like you said, Parker, I think it's going to be a close game. Next up, Cardinals coming off their bye, take on the Bears, who might be without Justin Fields.
Cardinals.
Cardinals.
Cardinals for me. Pat, Cardinals?
Yeah, you
Mhm.
wouldn't take the Bears.
Next up, Chargers, Bengals.
I'm going to take the Bengals. The Chargers, they had another disappointing performance on the road. They're going on the road once again against a team who plays very well at home. I'll take the Bengals. They'll be 8-4. Very
Yeah.
impressive.
This is a solid Bengals team. They had a couple hiccups not that long ago, a couple weeks ago, but they looked really good against the Steelers, and I think they'll do something similar. Not as in like win by that much, but they will look good again. So they'll win this one, Bengals.
This one's tough. They look really good against Pittsburgh, beat them down. I'm going to take the Bengals in this one, but I think it's going to be a really close game. This could be one of the better games of the week. Next up, Jaguars, Rams. Can the Rams get out of their losing streak?
Yeah, the Rams are frauds. I do think the Rams win. Listen, I guess I'll step up on the pedestal for a little bit. The Rams have very serious problems. The offensive line is completely faltering up the middle. It's really bad. Brian Allen's injured. David Edwards and Austin Corbett, they suck, for lack of better words. There's pressure in Matthew Stafford's face on every single play. That's led to him throwing 3 interceptions and
3 straight games with the pick
3
six.
straight games with a pick 6, and there's also 3 straight games with a turnover
Yeah.
or 3 turnovers. So the Rams they're not playing good football at all at the moment, and part of the reason is because they keep going after stars, and that allows less resources for the rest of the team. There's 22 players on the football field. Yeah, 4 of the 11 on the defensive end are absolutely elite players: Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald, and Jalen Ramsey. But that's less than half. I mean, these teams are absolutely picking on a horrible secondary outside of
Darius Williams is good.
he's okay. You should watch him play this year. It's not been pretty.
Okay.
And then they're just throwing it against the other corners, and they're throwing it quick, not allowing the 3 guys to get to the quarterback. And it's been ugly. This is a game to get right, and then you have the Cardinals on Monday Night Football next week.
Yeah, I am not happy with how they've looked. I'm
Neither
disappointed.
am I.
Disappointed. I feel bad for Vaughn. I want the world for that guy, but I do think that they win this week. It's a nice little pick themselves up kind of week against the Jaguars, and maybe they can find something. This is the perfect week to do it, to bounce back from their back-to-back losses.
Yeah, I'm going to take them over the Jaguars, and hopefully it's not a close game for your sake, Tom. So give me the Rams. Next up, Washington, Vegas. Who do we got?
I'll take the football team. Been impressed with how they've played lately, currently beating the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. I'll take the football team to go on the road and beat the Raiders.
This is a tough one. There haven't been really any games so far where I might switch unless, of course, injuries come up. But this might be that game. I'm gonna go with the Raiders for right now. But I don't know. Washington looks good. They're putting something together, so we'll see.
I'm going to take Washington. They look pretty good right now. So I'm going to take them over the Raiders. Now let's take a step back. Pat, Chargers or Bengals? You say Chargers
Bengals.
despite me.
I think you'd still do Bengals.
Yeah, I think he goes Bengals, actually.
Huh? Okay, we'll give him Bengals. He's going to take the Jaguars over the Rams because that's just something he does. No, he loves Cooper Cup. Wait.
He probably goes Rams.
Yeah, we'll
I'll
give
go
him Rams.
Rams.
And then he's taking the Raiders despite
Yeah, I'll
me.
go
We
Raiders.
already know that one.
Yes.
All right, 4 more games. Ravens, Steelers.
Should be a very good game. Despite how the Steelers have looked the last 2 weeks, they always play close games with the Ravens, so I'd expect nothing less. I do think that the Ravens end up winning this game, though, because they're the better team this year.
Yeah, I'm picking the Ravens, but this should probably be a dogfight.
It's going to be a good game. Last night, Lamar looked horrible in what looked like a drunk football game. But here's the thing. TJ Watt might not play because he was put on the COVID list today. So there's a lot to go through the rest of the week with him. I'm going to take the Ravens in this one. Pat takes Ravens, right?
Yeah, probably.
Or does he go Steelers because the Ravens have the top spot over the Patriots?
I don't think he'd think that much. I
No.
think he would just take the Ravens.
Yeah, Ravens. Next up, Niners, Seahawks.
I'm going to take the Niners because the Seahawks suck. They're hot, steaming garbage. They would have a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft, but they don't have one.
That sucks for them. Yeah, the Seahawks team. Oof. I'm gonna go with the Niners. They look good. They'll be without Debo, which hurts, but they're still good. So I think they'll be able to get that.
I would take the Niners despite losing Debo for a couple of weeks. I think that they're a much better team than the Seattle Seahawks. So give me the 49ers in this one. Pat, who do we have them taking?
I would say probably Niners too.
Niners. All right. Sunday night, Chiefs host the Broncos. We already know Pat's taking the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs here. As good as the Broncos look coming off their bye, I think the Chiefs are going to look just as good
This
coming off
team
theirs.
is so inconsistent. I'm gonna pick the Chiefs. I've been really bad with record predictions with both of them, but Denver especially. But I'm gonna go with the Chiefs here.
Andy Reid does not lose after the bye. He's lost once in his career, and it's going to stay that way. It's going to be a good game, regardless, but Chiefs take this one in a close one. Now, the final game of the week, Monday night, Patriots-Bills. Pat, we know who's taking the Patriots. Who do we have?
I'm going to take the Bills. They've got a long week. They're playing at home. I think that plays a factor. I think these two teams will ultimately split no matter who wins this game. I'm going to take the Bills here at home. It should be a fantastic game. Winner's going to get bragging rights as of now in the AFC East.
Yep.
Yeah, I got the Bills as well. I do think the Patriots have looked better up until this point, but Bills are at home. I think they get it done. That extra rest is going to help a lot.
Ryan?
It's a tough one. I think this is going to be arguably the best game of the week, and especially a great way to cap off a Week 13. So I'm going to take the Bills for this one, but I think it's going to be extremely close down to the wire. So that's my pick for that one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a different type of show tonight as we actually expanded into college football for once. But that'll do it. Next week is the season finale here on Blaze Radio. Make sure to be here and not miss out. Same time, same place next week. Have a great rest of your week, and happy Hanukkah to everyone.
Warriors snapping